Welcome back to season 2 of Legal Luminaries, the Paralegal Edition. We are excited for today's interview with AAfPE's president, Chris Simcox. AAfPE's podcast, Legal Luminaries, shines a spotlight on the insights, trends, and voices shaping the future of paralegal education and the legal profession. Legal Luminaries is designed to connect you with thought leaders, innovators, and trailblazers in the legal field. With me today is my co-host and fellow paralegal educator, Kelly Radnathy. And as I said earlier, our guest today is AAfPE President Chris Simcox.
Hello,
Chris, would you
everybody.
mind sharing? Thank you for being here. And would you mind sharing about your journey in the legal field and how it led you to your current role as the president of AAfPE?
Sure. So I'm not going to reveal my age, but I will say that I've been in practice for about 20 years. I'm still an active practitioner. My journey to there was kind of strange because I was a music performance major. So my whole background had been music, drama, performance, and somehow I switched over to law school track somewhere in my journey. So I ended up completing my education at Franklin Pierce Law, which is in New Hampshire, and then came back to where I live was Pennsylvania, and that's where I practice both Pennsylvania and Jersey. I started working for Bucks County Community College in 2004, and I taught in their paralegal department, and I went from an adjunct to a full-time tenured professor. At this point, I've been there for over 15 years. And I also teach for University of Cincinnati as an adjunct and two other universities as an adjunct occasionally when I need to. So my journey to education started out as music education and moved from law to back to education. So yes, so I have a all bunch of different backgrounds all in one.
Definitely. It's a circuitous path for many of us into the law. And I hear that from your background as well. You have such a rich and robust background and experience. So I wonder, with your experience as a lawyer and as an educator, how has that influenced your perspective on paralegal education?
I think the biggest experience that I can share is just that I have been in firms predominantly that I don't think utilize paralegals in the vast ways that they should. And so one of the things that I've always been emphasizing in my classes when I'm teaching my paralegal students is just, making sure that you find the right environment for you to thrive, because not every environment is the right environment. Sometimes we take jobs because we have to, and I understand, but when you're picking a career path and you're trying to figure out where you need to be, you have to be someplace where you're valued, respected. I don't think attorneys are anything without paralegals. I think my job as a lawyer becomes so much better when I have somebody behind me and all my team that work really well together. And I don't know that that's been the course of history. And so right now I'm in predominantly a male firm with, a lot of history there with, our partners have been around for a very long time. So there's a different atmosphere, right? So it's really important for me, and I try to be an advocate of how important paralegals are to our firm, how important they are to our job. And I've always done that. And so when I educate, I want them to stand up for that. I want them to realize how important they are and don't let anybody think that they're not.
I love that. I love that self-advocacy perspective, that you're adding that into the educational curriculum for paralegals in the future workforce, as well as, you're a living example of it by way of, the work environment that you are submersed within. So it's really interesting perspective, Chris. So thank you for that. Switching gears a little, talking about your new role as president of AAfPE, how exciting. So we were wondering, what are the primary goals and priorities for AAfPE this year in 2025?
Well, it's interesting that we're doing this podcast now because we're just coming off of our in-person board meeting, which I don't know about you guys, but when we have Zoom meetings, that's all great and good. But those hour meetings a month, like that's really not where the work happens. You really need to be in person. You need to be able to generate ideas and you need to be able to really discuss things. So we're right off of that. So we have been talking about strategic plans and things that are going to be priority for this year. So I'm really glad that we're kind of fresh in that so that I can kind of share that. Obviously, our environment is changing so quickly. So we really have been the primary source for paralegal education for a very long time, and we want to continue to stay there. And so, as states are getting into a place where they are making paralegal roles very different from where they have been in the past, we want to make sure that we're giving the educators the tools to make sure that they can educate their paralegals in all states, but also in those states where they're now going to be working, in the courtrooms and in different areas where we maybe didn't think that paralegals were going to be in the past. So we really have to figure out what kinds of tools and things that we can do for our paralegal educators. We've been talking about a certification for paralegal educators so that they could actually be certified through our organization to be able to teach, and not that they aren't already, but just to advance what they can show to the world and to their students that they have done. And then we want to provide the tools, so the resources. So AI is obviously in everybody's conversation, and we can't say it's new. It's been around for a very long time. Problem is it's so rapidly changing. It's hard to get a handle on it, and it's hard to get everybody to be on the same page about where it belongs. I think a lot of our paralegal educators are struggling in their own environments. Their colleges and universities are not giving them the tools to try to accept this tool and actually grow with it instead of it, opposing it and shutting it down. So our hope is that AAfPE can be that resource, that we can help you grow and learn how to use AI for your students, for yourselves, and to make sure that they're growing into the environment where they're going to live, which is going to be, use it or you're not going to be there. So
Right.
we've got to figure out how to do that. So we're talking about new ways and new tools, new trainings, and maybe making an AI database ourselves with all of the information we have from our educators to help educators be able to create things from a very trusted source, which is all of our brains, all of our mind power as members that we've been putting into our databases.
Right. And that mind power behind, this AI, really, right? Without these brilliant minds that have come up with these tools and resources and helping us refine them, we wouldn't be here, evolved into the fast middle of the technology era, right? So
Right.
you kind of already addressed this, but just kind of diving a little deeper, if we can, into how AAfPE really plans to address those evolving needs, both for the paralegal educators, really, so that we can make an impact with the students, now, as opposed to, too far out from now.
So I think that the way that we plan on doing that is we're going to develop a bunch of different webinars and informational sessions where we talk about, how can you influence your own college and university? How can you make this become important to them, that in at least in our area, it doesn't have to be in the English area or the social studies area, but in our area, in our colleges and universities, this is a tool we're going to use, and here's how we're going to use it, and we're not afraid to use it. And so having those kinds of discussions with colleges and universities and helping our educators do that. We're also going to provide more trainings of how to use AI and use our members who are already using it, or maybe have colleges and universities that are embracing it. And how are they doing that? So that we can share that with all of our members, so our members can all advance in the same way. We've talked about making sure that we look at certain schools. Is your school in advanced in this? And maybe that's like I don't want to use the word blue ribbon school, but we've talked about trying to acknowledge that there's certain schools out there that are really advanced in this. And maybe we need to be looking at them as mentors in this area and using those resources.
Right. Right.
Well, just as a member of AAfPE myself, Chris, it's exciting to hear these things. I'm jotting down notes as you're speaking because I'm hearing things that I'm just loving, like grow and learn, and we're modeling to our students that we too are utilizing these tools and we are creating and pioneering these tools and resources that we will share and hopefully train our students with. And I love that you're even saying we're preparing our educators to have those very important and sometimes may be difficult conversations with leadership at their institutions about the use of AI because it's happening. It's already happening real time in the legal profession. And I wanted to, actually address, and this is probably so timely of us, having this conversation about technology and, generative artificial intelligence or Gen AI. But we have our spring virtual conference coming up soon, slated for March 19th through the 21st. And I'm just so excited. I saw the agenda and it looks really good. There's some really great sessions. And I understand that this particular conference, is really tailored for adjunct faculty, right? So our faculty members. And I'm wondering, with regard to some of those key topics and sessions, can you share a little bit of what you're looking forward to in this conference?
Well, I think one of the things that is new in our spring conference this year is that we are having a badging track. And so we started that at the national conference in October. And I think it was really well received. It was something that gave, paralegal educators a chance to say, I'm going to take these 5 classes. And at the end of that, I have something that I can show my college and university about why I was here and what I did. And so we decided to do that with the virtual conference as well. So there is a track for badging for the educators, and it's specifically kind of geared towards how to train beginning students and where we can grow with like an intro to law and those kinds of classes. So this is really a teaching conference. Our national conference has so much to offer too, but this is really special because we have an ability to add on our adjuncts to come for our lesser cost. We can be virtual, so we don't have to necessarily travel anywhere. So where our colleges and universities are, squeezing us around the neck with costs, we don't have to do that. And it gives them an opportunity to feel that they belong and they're being educated. One of the things that I have been doing recently is I just started doing some ABA site visits. And the things that you learn from doing things like that are that, adjuncts really do sometimes feel disconnected. And anything that we can do to help your program make them feel connected, make them feel like they're also a part without wasting their time, money, and energy because they have other things also on their plates. So this is a great opportunity for you to invite them, make it a actual professional development, include them in AAfPE, let them know about AAfPE, let them know about what we do. So I think it's going to be really exciting. We've got some really good sessions. We have heard people's feedback about, we don't want to hear just all of one thing. So we've tried to switch that up. We also are trying to gear towards adjuncts in the sense that they may only be teaching one class. So maybe we give you some assignments and practical things that you can do in a class. So we have a couple of those running at the same time. So you can pick a class that you want to go to learn a little bit more about what you could do for practical assignments, for example, in a particular class. So I think there's a lot there to be offered to you guys and to everyone as member of AAfPE, and then as to your adjuncts to pass that along to them.
That's fantastic. And I love this accessibility and engagement of the adjunct faculty. And we're really fortunate that we have our leadership of AAfPE that focuses on just that. And I understand if you're an institutional member, that first registration, that paid registration, allows for other adjuncts to attend for free, which is an incredible deal as you talk about like these budget constraints for a lot of our institutions that we're facing, in these years to come. So I also wanted to ask about some of the insights. You talked about some of the teaching methodologies or pedagogy that we're going to share, through this particular virtual conference. But are there any specific topics? I know everyone's talking about AI and, how this is going to impact our profession. But, a lot of the conversation that Kelly and I have been having is, are we training our students on how to use it professionally and ethically? Because as you had said, we want to run towards it. We don't want to run away from it. It's here. So we want to be able to educate people on how to use it properly. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. And I think one of the things too that we've been very blessed with is that we have some really great vendors that join our organization's conferences. And, they are on the forefront sometimes with softwares and uses of certain technologies and can really share that stuff with us. So we use that time during our conferences to do that. And so, as far as technology, there might be an AI kind of training assistance in a class that you can implement and put into your class. And it's a product that you'll get introduced to at a conference because of our vendors. So I think that those things are good. We also have sessions that, talk about people who have already implemented AI in their classrooms. How are they doing that? What are some of the practical assignments where they're using AI to get students acclimated to it and get started using it? I'm really about the practical assignment thing that, we all as members, it's so nice. One of the things I loved about AAfPE and the reason I got involved in it was because I've been so used to organizations, in the attorney world where nobody shares anything with anybody and everybody keeps it all to themselves. AAfPE is so unique in that everybody will respond and share at moment's notice as to what they have available, what they've done before, best practices stuff. It's just wonderful. So the opportunity for them to share with adjuncts too, like, hey, this is a place where you can put it into your class. Those that are already faculty or full-time faculty, here's a way to implement AI in your, torts class. And let's talk about that. So different examples of that. I like the practical examples. I think that that's exciting because you can take away something and go back and use it.
Right. That tangible sort of learning experience, it's good for the educators and it's good for the learners as well, right? So, kind of continuing that momentum, that educating the educator side of it, and talking about insights, let's kind of shift to the fall conference, the 2025 fall conference. So what themes or focus areas are we sort of looking to kind of wrap up near the end of the year as far as, educating the educator?
I think that the fall conference is going to be really exciting for a lot of different reasons. One is everybody's like, oh, Grand Rapids. But let me tell you, I think this is going to be something that people walk away from and say, I didn't really think that was going to be a great location, but it is just, it offers so much to us as a organization to be there. And the other thing too is that, we have, as planning for that conference, we're using people that are on the ground. We have several members, universities and colleges that are there, and they are so excited to share with us their hometown, their state, their things that they can share. And so they've been really integral parts of the committee that's planning that conference. And I think that just makes a better conference all around when you have people on the ground that you can actually utilize and know exactly where they're going and what things we really have to see and be a part of. So we're talking about doing some community events where we're going to do some giving back while we're there, which I think is a really important thing. Unfortunately, I'm a boy mom, and I grew up with scouts. You don't leave anything untouched in a good way. I want to make sure that I make a difference wherever I am. And so they say, "Oh, AAfPE was here, and this is what they did." So I'm hoping that we do some community stuff that we can grow together, as well as take all of in the information we're going to get to learn and grow together. And it's just going to be a great conference and a great atmosphere all around. And then we've got a book club. I don't know if you guys know about that, but there is a person that we've come in contact with, and I'm not going to spoil anything because I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say this. There is an active book club right now with this author's books. And then she's going to speak at the conference, and she is a paralegal. She has a paralegal background, and these stories do have a lot of links to the paralegal field. So I think that has actually added some excitement to this conference, whereas you could be involved in that book club right now. You could even join it if you didn't know about it before. Join now, get on the bandwagon. She has several books. They're going to be going over those before we get to the conference. And how great will it be to have her there and be able to maybe sign your books and be speaking about her experience. So I think that adds a great element to this. It doesn't always have to be that our focus is one-sided. We can see all the different aspects of where paralegals come into our world. So I think that's a great addition to this. And I hope that anybody who's listening who hasn't heard about it or checked it out, it's in our newsletter. There's a link to sign up. So feel free to get on that bandwagon if you're into book clubs and reading, and all of her stories our books are really well done.
Well, the theme here that I'm feeling, which I makes AAfPE that much more, impactful for us paralegal educators, is that the expansion of the paralegal role in the legal field right now. You are aligning your programs and your conferences with supporting that growth and the professional development there. So it's really interesting for us and exciting for us as paralegal educators and paralegals ourselves, to really know that there's this resource there available. So thinking of that, these conferences, these as opportunities to really build our professional skills. How does AAfPE intend to sort of bridge that gap with the outcomes from, let's say, the spring conference to this book club, and then connecting that with the fall conference for all of us, so it is all accessible and available?
I think one of the things that, just recently in our meeting, we talked a lot about is that, we oftentimes try to get feedback from our members as to what they liked, what they didn't like, what were the things, but it's when does that feedback happen? And I think what we found is that what we're going to add this time is some opportunity before these conferences end, before people leave us, to tell us about what they want the next time they come. Because I think once we get removed from the conference, we don't have those thoughts like just spinning around in our head like we do while we're at the conference itself. So we're going to make an opportunity during the spring conference to talk about the fall conference. Is there anything special that you'd like to see at the fall conference? Any follow-up to anything that was here in the spring that you'd like to see again at the national? We don't always have the same group of people from one to the other, but it certainly will help us plan better for the next conference to make sure that we have those things that we can carry through. And I think that AAfPE does a lot of things very purposeful. I think we always have. So the idea of, maybe it's like a one-off is not really what our history has been. We try to connect these things with different focuses, but a lot of the same topics, so that you can see them from different angles. So our national is going to be more about, where is our universe going? What are the states that are actually doing more now? Do we need, more certification exams for our paralegals? What do we need to do for our students that we're not doing already, to prepare them for this world that they might be going into? The teaching part is the nitty gritty. I mean, we teach our students that the statutes are the substance and the rules are the procedure. That's kind of what I view these two conferences as. They're not different and they're not going to be one-offs. It's that this is the nitty gritty. This is the big picture. Let's put them together and figure this out. And hopefully then from the national, we can take those big ideas, the big things that we talked about, and figure out how do we flesh out the nitty gritty for the spring and make those types of connections. I think that we do see a real asset to that kind of look and view with this.
That's wonderful. And just kind of staying on this topic of the future of the paralegal profession, I want you to pull out your president crystal ball, Chris, and think about this in your personal view and perspective. What do you think are the most significant challenges and also opportunities that's facing the profession?
So I think that what's really facing us is that our students are oftentimes going into roles that we keep saying we're trying to prepare them for the real world, for the positions they're going to be taking, but the positions keep changing. It's a moving target. And so we start to prepare them for what we think they're going to see, and then it changes. And so, maybe students that are graduating next year are going to get more of something than they got. And so, because we continue to grow with it. So I think that we need to be ahead of the curve, if that makes sense, instead of always trying to catch up. Now, I don't know that that's possible. That's what we talk about. That's really what we spend time thinking about is let's think about what do we think is going to happen? What is going to be the thing that's going to be the next thing on the horizon? And can we start talking about it now rather than waiting for it to hit us and then we're like scrambling? I think unfortunately, we got hit over the head when COVID happened. We realized that, we thought technology was out there, but we weren't paying a lot of attention to it. And then something critical happens and it hits us, and now we're scrambling. And I think anytime you make decisions in scrambling mode, they're just not good. They're not sound, and they make people panicked. So I think what we got to do is think about what's coming, what's on the horizon, by talking to our members, talking to the people that we have connections with. It's about networking. Who are the people that are out there that are legislators that we could find that this is what's coming, up and coming in particular states? We are actively having what we've called the summit meetings, which are all of the organizations that kind of have some effect on paralegals, like NALA, NALS, and NIFPA, all of these organizations that support our students in some way. Let us connect and try to brainstorm what's the next thing on the horizon, and let us all try to figure out now what to do with it, right? I am old school. I am going kicking and screaming into this world. And so if anybody knows what's holding us back, it's me. So I'm there to try to say, I'm the negative Nelly, and then shoot me down. Tell me why this is not what it is. And, so that I can open up and listen to it, and we can make sure that we prepare for it.
That's a very interesting perspective, and it's necessary, right? This is how we come up with solid ideas and trainings for people who are educating our future workforce. And I love the ideas and concepts that you shared here, using our conferences to really, embed that knowledge and that curiosity in our paralegal educators so that they pass that along to their students, right, who will quickly matriculate through our programs and become that future workforce for the legal profession. And, I heard you say, yes, our conferences are really they're attuned to the issues that we're talking about in our leadership meetings, at our board meetings. We are hoping to have webinars and informational sessions. So this is all great news, even a book club. I think this is wonderful. Is there anything else that you are thinking about, or maybe have already in the works in terms of how you can better support educators in adapting to these changes? Like you said, it's just changing so fast with the advancement of technology. So is there anything on the horizon that you can share with us?
Well, I think that AAfPE in the past few years, under our president Paige Beadham, have made some substantial changes in the organization that are really have helped our organization immensely. And what we want to do is to continue on that pathway to make sure that those decisions and grow with those decisions, right? You implement, but then you have to evaluate, make sure that we are hitting all of the things that our members need. And I guess I would put a plea out to just say that if anybody who's watching this, I will say it over and over again. I say it in my newsletters every time we put a newsletter out every month. I am I want to listen to your ideas. Like, this is where you have to share. We don't grow and get better unless we know what we're missing the mark on or what we are doing really well. So we need to work as a team between the members and the organization to try to make sure that we are hitting all the marks. And if we're not, that's what we need to work on. That's what we need to focus on. So as far as what we can do, we come up with those ideas, but we don't want to be off the mark on what we're coming up with. Is this going to be helpful to you or isn't it? Right? We talked about an LLM and making some sort of database where you could, it's searchable, and the things that we see on the listserv where people are asking questions, can we put that in some sort of database where you wouldn't have to go on the listserv and ask questions, but you could actually search it within our own information so that it was safe and secure. We'd love to do that, and we'd love to put our energy into that. Is that something that everybody needs, right? We have to hear from everybody. Is that something worth it to you? We wanted to have a publishable, actual journal, a legal journal for those educators who need to publish, who need to be out there for their own jobs and to make themselves better. Do we need that? Are we doing the things that you want us to do? The conferences, is that enough? Or, do you want webinars in between? Are there things that we could be doing that would even better assist you? Got to give the feedback so that we can make those choices.
Right. Well, yeah, informed decisions, right? I mean, that's part of the process here in the legal field for every role that we're working within. And I love how there's this emphasis on that ideation and creation, right? Understanding that we're working with an innovative future workforce as it is. And so if we are preparing this workforce, we must be innovative ourselves, right? And if we're teaching them about a tool, we must know how to use the tool before we ask them to use it. And so that's where I think it's so exciting for us as, leaders and educators to be able to implement these tools that we've found helpful or resourceful for us. So in that sort of leadership role, Chris, I'm really interested to know what motivated you to pursue this leadership role within AAfPE, knowing how much that paralegal education really means to you, but wanting to take another step in leadership on that ship.
I think that the view that I have of leadership is actually the view I have of being a volunteer, right? I go all in. That's my feeling. I can't learn about an organization enough by just standing on these sidelines and dipping my toe in. It doesn't get me there. Immersing myself in something is what it is. So, I was an AAfPE member for 1 year before I was like, I'm on the board. And the reason I do that is because now I learn so much more about the organization, and I'm a part of the decision making and getting the voices of the members back to the board. So I've been on the board for a while, and then, I didn't know whether I was president material or not, but I know that I care about the organization and I care about the people that are the members. I have learned so much from this organization, and they share so much, and they've supported me so much in my pathway. that I can't imagine not giving back to that. So I think that for anybody who's just joining our organization and says, oh, I'm just going to take a year and kind of go to this conference and go to that conference and just see, I'm going to tell you, just don't do that. Jump in, get on a committee, do something that is part of the leadership, because you will then ingrain it. And it's going to be so much more of an experience for you. It has been for me. And I am only here because somebody else said to me that, yes, you could be a board member. Yes, you could do this. And so I'm just going to put a general statement out there that you all can. So any members that are watching this that are thinking, I don't know if I want to get involved, I don't know if I have time, please, you will find the time, and you will find that it's much more of an exciting experience, and you can give so much more when you volunteer and get yourself involved. So.
Well, speaking of time and involvement, how in the world do you balance your responsibilities as the AAfPE president with your teaching and your legal practice?
You're asking too soon. You're totally asking too soon. I don't know how I'm doing that. And probably by the time that the presidency term is up, that's when I'll know how to do this. But I think, my kids I have 3 sons, and they're all of the age in the 20s. And they come to me about, oh, Mom, I need work-life balance. And they have these conversations with me. And I'm like, okay, you're talking to the wrong person. I don't know what you think you're going to do. I mean, we all take on too much. It's what we do, right? We all have too much on our plate. And yet, you know what? If we care and we put as much effort as we can, and leave it a better place when we leave, instead of messing it up. If I'm messing it up, I'm going to take it off my plate. If I'm doing it and I'm adding something to the table every time I approach the table, then I'm going to keep approaching the table. I think that it's just about scheduling and trying to see if you can work. And everybody else who's watching this that works with me, they're like, oh yeah, she's way too over challenged. And I am, and I juggle a lot of stuff. But again, if I think I evaluate and say, like, am I still adding something to this plate? If I am, I'm going to be there. And if I'm not, then I'll get off, and I'll move on and let somebody else do it. And my hope is that other people can feel the same way. I don't think people realize how many hours of volunteer time that board members put in, and all of the committees put in, and the agency and the organizations, all of these places and things don't run unless somebody does that. So step up and give it a shot.
True. So true. And such a grounded, authentic response. I appreciate that. So what advice would you offer to new educators entering the field of paralegal studies?
Network with these people. I mean, I've been so blessed to know so many of our AAfPE members beyond just a hello. And they all bring so much to the table, and they all know so much, but not only that, so willing to share. We've tried many, many times to create mentor programs, and we don't always get somebody who steps up and says, hey, I need a mentor. Say you need a mentor. There are people waiting in the wings that are dying just to say, you know what, I'd love to sit down with you for 5 minutes and show you this or show you that. There is just no shame in doing that. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. I hope that I never come to a table thinking I know everything, because I don't. I want to learn from the other people that are at the table. We all have gifts that we don't all share. So I need to learn from you if I don't have that in my ballywick. So if you're new, I would say to you, like, just start networking, start talking to people, get names, get emails, reach out to these people because they're willing to do it. And if you want a mentor, if you really do, want to have that, contact us, because we have a mentor program. We have mentors, like what we say, waiting in the wings. Kind of, it didn't take off because we didn't have a lot of people that would, want to accept that, but they're always here, and you can always learn.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Chris, so much for sharing your invaluable information and tips and tricks with us. And also for being such a powerful driving force behind building up these resources for, paralegal educators to use in content development for our programs. To our listeners, we appreciate you joining us on this episode of AAfPE's Legal Luminaries. We hope that our conversation with Chris has sparked curiosity on what the future holds for the paralegal education and the legal landscape as a whole. For those eager to explore further, we've included some relevant links in the show notes, and we want to give a special acknowledgement to Doug Lusk and the National Society for Legal Technology for their contributions to the post-production of this podcast. We couldn't do it without you. And as we wrap up, we leave you with a thought-provoking question. If you had 20 minutes to interview anyone, who would you choose to speak with? We encourage you to share your thoughts and suggestions with us, because who knows, maybe we'll interview them. So thank you once again, and we look forward to having you with us on the next episode of AAfPE's Legal Luminaries. Until then, keep forging those connections and building relationships that illuminate the legal landscape. Goodbye for now.
Bye. Thank you.